The wreckage from a maritime disaster which killed more than 800 Australians more than 80 years ago has been found. Shipwreck of the Montevideo Maru was discovered 5 days ago, 4,000 metres below the surface of the ocean off the coast of the Philippines. Joining us live now on board the Fugro vessel in the South China Sea is Max Uechtritz, documentary filmmaker and part of the Silentworld expedition team. Max, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's incredible to speak to you as you are live in the South China Sea. Firstly, can you tell us about your connection to this tragic event?
Thanks, Gabriella. Yes, I am a Rabaul-born person, and that's where the ship sailed from in June 1942. My father was as a teenager, was on the last evacuation boat out of Rabaul with his best friend. His best friend's father stayed behind, and that gentleman, a man called Arthur Parry, was one of the victims on the Montevideo Maru. I've known about this story a lot of my life. I was a founding member of the Montevideo Maru Society, which pushed for more recognition of this ship. We founded that in 2008, and I've been on the story for a long time, and I'm now making a documentary about it.
The shipwreck has just been discovered only last week. Seeing as you have such a personal connection to this story, was it emotional for you? How rewarding was it?
It was as emotional as it gets. I've, as a foreign correspondent for the ABC, I've worked around the world and many big stories, but personally, there's been nothing that matches this on a personal basis. It was, I'm on board with another descendant of a woman called Andrea Williams, who lost her grandfather and great uncle on the ship, and we were both very emotional. We were thinking all the time of all those thousands of descendants of the victims in Australia who have wondered all this time for 80 years the whereabouts of the last resting place of their loved ones, and it's finally happened, and I've got to say it was one of the most emotional moments of my life.
How much do you expect this discovery will mean to the families who lost loved ones more than 80 years ago?
Absolutely everything, because the families were left in a vortex for years. They weren't told that their loved ones had died. Some of the women who came back to Australia, evacuated Australia, had to farm out their children into orphanages so they could pay and live, because the army at the time wasn't paying them because their loved ones weren't officially deceased. The governments over the years of both colours obfuscated and had no inquiry. The story itself has been, unfortunately, almost shunned by history, and there's an enormous family of Montevideo Maru descendants today who are commemorating. We've had so many messages. There are tears, there's thanks, there's appreciation for John Mullen and the Silentworld team, which John Mullen is the boss of this, the leader of this team, and he's put it together so well over so long to make this happen, and it's an extraordinary achievement. We're all proud and humbled at the same time to be part of it.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Look, I believe it took about 12 days, obviously years before that, but actually out at sea 12 days to make this discovery. Is that right? What were those 12 days like? And did you fear that you might not actually be able to find it?
Oh, listen, we were all very positive but we had some setbacks with bad weather. We had to head for cover in the lee of the Philippines at one stage because the seas were too big. We had a few technical problems to start with, and then it gradually came together that we put this vehicle, you may have some pictures of it, underwater AUV that went underwater and went down incredibly 4,200 metres down, and we had a number of passes where it showed up nothing on the flat seabed. Secretly, all of us were really concerned that that we wouldn't find it, and then the moment came when we got back the data. You're seeing that's the AUV on screen at the moment, that a multi-million-dollar vehicle that goes down and scans the bottom of the ocean, and then we saw there was signs of debris, and then we had to wait another 6 hours for the data to be processed and the images to be processed. And it just was heart-stopping when you walked in and you realised straight away you were looking at a ship, and then these wonderful people We've got two former submarine officers on board, one with the Royal Australian Navy and one with the Royal Navy on nuclear submarines, and that's Tim Brown and Roger Turner, and their expertise was extraordinary in doing measurements of all the shipwreck and then matching it gradually. That's the operations room you see there where they're doing, and that was Roger in shot. And you'll see on the walls there the photos of descent of the missing men and boys and their families.
Wow.
And they were with us the entire time.
So you had to obviously verify the ship. What are the next steps? How much longer will you be out at sea? And are we going to be seeing a documentary anytime soon?
Well, we're at the moment below us. That's the porthole of my cabin behind us, and below us, that AUV is actually taking low passes over the top of debris fields, and we hope to get some more images and high quality images, and we're really hoping for identifiable things, perhaps some lifeboats, helmets, whatever, you name it, because the pictures of the ship show that it was broken in two. The stern and the bow were 500 metres apart, but there's a big debris field. So we're hoping to get more evidence. So we'll do that over the next few days, and we'll head back to Manila next week, and we'll be home by the end of next week. And then I'm with John Mullen and others. We'll be looking to continue on with the funding. By the way, you should know that some very famous names are associated with this ship. Peter Garrett's grandfather, Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil, his grandfather was on the ship, as was the uncle of Kim Beazley, our former opposition leader and ambassador to Washington. There was a wallaby called Mac Ramsey, a famous wallaby who not long before that had scored the only try in a game for the Wallabies in a game against the All Blacks before the war opened. He couldn't go to London with the 1939 Wallabies because the war had happened. He went up as a commando on New Ireland next to New Britain, and then he too was taken. There's a really, really tragic story. Three brothers from the one family, the Turner brothers of New South Wales, also perished on this ship. So there's some heartache, there's generational trauma, there's families that have been devastated and torn apart by this amazing, and it is our greatest loss of life at sea in history. Twice as many people died in 11 minutes, twice as many as the entire Vietnam War.
Max Uechtritz, congratulations on successfully making this discovery. I can only imagine the amount of hours and years spent working for this moment, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories, as you've mentioned, some of them this morning, but we appreciate you making the time.
Thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure. All the best.